Hello and welcome to Instructor video 12, the last video you will ever have to watch of me again. So it's been fun, I hope, a little. Um, anyway, so it's another beautiful day outside, so I thought I'd sit outside again, and I hope that you are finding some time to enjoy the beautiful weather. So this video is just going to include a couple pointers for start thinking about for your final electronic portfolios, which are due 2 weeks from Thursday. So you've got another couple weeks to put them together, to finish your revisions, and turn all that in. And so here's some ideas for you just to think about. First of all, your pachakachas are done. Good job. That was the first round of sort of final grades. It was worth 10% of your grade. I have not entered those grades yet into gradebook, so your gradebook grade does not reflect that yet. But I will get those in probably by the end of the week, if maybe even today. And the only thing is, if you had any issues with your group mates perhaps not contributing in a way that really hindered your process or your project, and you are afraid that your grade will reflect that, their poor attendance or poor participation, please email me. It's not a matter of making this a witch hunt or throwing your peer under the bus. It's a matter of people not being responsible for what they were supposed to have done. And I usually don't have a problem with that, because the group projects I require usually really necessitate everyone's involvement, and it shows if that doesn't happen. I didn't notice that too much from anybody in these classes, but if there was some problem, email me in the next day or two and let me know so that I can deal with it, and so that your grade won't be reflected in that one person's lack of participation. But you have to get in touch with me, so do that within the next day or so. Otherwise, I'm just putting your grades up, and that'll be the end of it. Also, next week, I'm going to be announcing the winners of the best presentation. The most persuasive presentation will be announced, and that group will receive a prize. So make sure you come to our last class for that. You should be starting on your revisions. Basically, I have posted under Sakai assignments all of my comments for your profiles and your memoirs, projects 1 and 2. Some of you have project 3s back, your investigative reports. I will finish those. My goal is to finish all of those responses by Tuesday before we meet for our next class, so I'm going to try and pump those out this week, so you can expect a little notification from Sakai when that's done. So be on the lookout for that. And start working on your revisions, because those will take some time if you want to do them. Then once you've got your revisions complete, your electronic portfolio is the last step, designing that, putting everything on there that you need to turn in as your final project for the course. There's a reading in the Hard Race Guide, Chapter 12 this week, that talks about, designing a good website. Just gives you some pointers, but it talks about things like, balancing the text that you use with the images that you use. Even though this is an e-portfolio, most of you have so far composed your projects in alphabetic text in that mode. Some of you may choose to change your modes for your final projects. That's great. But think about how you're going to balance that text. It's a little different from paper because it's electronic. It's a website. Usually websites break things up. They'll have like some text, a paragraph, and then either a nice space between those paragraphs, or a new page for the next paragraph, or they'll have an image of some sort in between the paragraphs to break it up, because it's really hard on a website to read full text one right after the other. It's very hard to read single space text, so you want to think about really maybe double spacing if you choose to use alphabetic text for your final projects. You want to think about at least double spacing your projects online. If not, breaking up some of the text with paragraph markers or images or something else. Think about your audience for each project. So make sure that You are writing clearly for an audience for each of those projects. Then think about who is the audience for the actual entire ePortfolio. Who you're hoping, obviously, that the audience you choose for each project can access the portfolio. But maybe this ePortfolio is something you're going to use to get you an internship or a summer job or get into a program at URI. So think about future audiences that might like to see what you've done in this class in order to judge, perhaps get you into some kind of program or job. Also, who is the audience for your reflection? Now, you're going to have to write a reflection piece, and in portfolio keeping, which is this book that we started using at the beginning of the semester and kind of walked away from for a little bit, now we're back to it. You need to read chapter 9, which is how to write a reflective component, and that's a reflective letter that you're writing for me, and sort of how to put together your final editing, revising, proofreading your artifacts for your final portfolio. So you're going to read those for this week as well, and next Tuesday you need to bring in a response to Time to Reflect 12 and 13. 12 asks you to think back on the first Time to Reflect you wrote on, which is actually under Sakai assignments, and you can go back on Sakai assignments and see what you wrote for that Time to Reflect number 1. And that's where you talked about your goals for the class and your ideas of what a portfolio should be, and you're reflecting on that to see what you think now. And then for portfolio keeping 13, you're going to be thinking about where can you demonstrate your progress as a writer in this class or a composer, and what kinds of artifacts are you going to choose to show evidence of that progress. So that the reflection that you write is going to be for me pretty much. And also anyone else who might be interested in the process you went through for your assignment. But that reflection is going to be worth about 30% of this overall 80% ePortfolio grade. So it's a big chunk. Consider it like, almost like a final exam. And you're going to demonstrate everything you've learned in this class and the progress you've made. So keep that in mind moving ahead. Other things you want to think about with your electronic portfolio are, headings, what kinds of headers you're going to use to make it easily navigable for your reader or viewer. What fonts are you going to use? What does the font that you're using say about your attitude or tone? If you use it like a Comic Sans font, which I like to use for my announcements because I try to make them sort of fun and friendly. If you use that for something more serious, it might contrast to the tone, the serious tone you're trying to convey to your audience. Also think about your colors. What does the color choice say about your subject, your tone? Brighter colors tend to be more cheery. Neutral colors tend to, have a calm feeling. Blacks and grays and blues tend to be more serious. So think about the colors that you want to use, and or if you want to use a lot of color, because let's say maybe you're a fashion major and that makes sense for you. So think about that. Think about how you're going to hierarchize your information. Remember, readers, usually American readers, read from left to right and up down. So probably a lot of the most important information you want to put in the top left-hand corner, because that's pretty much the first thing people are going to see. So, and where they're going to read. Also think about who has access to the internet and who doesn't. If one of your audiences does not really have access to the internet, you need to think about how you might get them this information that you're trying to get to them. Think about the modes you're going to use. The medium you're using is the internet. So all of this is going across on the internet. So your modes have to be electronic in some form. So will you be using images? Will you be using sounds? Will you only be using alphabetic text? Will you be using videos? Will you add hyperlinks? Those are all different modes that you can use for this ePortfolio. What extras can you add? Can you put in some charts? Can you put in some graphs to organize and show information better? Can you use photos, graphics, images? Are you going to try and do a podcast or some kind of audio recording for like your memoir? Are you going to post one of your projects like a blog or in a wiki? Are you going to do some kind of a news video for your information, your investigative report? Are you going to post an online brochure of some type? Or could you do a PowerPoint, like a Pacha where you have PowerPoint slides running and you record your voice over top of them? And will you have links to resources for a website if you're trying to get information out to your audience about, places to go for domestic abuse help? Maybe actually have numbers and websites where they can link to get more information. How interactive do you want this e-portfolio to be? So be thinking about that as you're revising your final projects, because it might make sense for you to add some of that stuff in order to make it more interactive and more audience friendly. Okay, so to kind of help prepare you for thinking about your final e-portfolio, you're going to look at one sample e-portfolio. It was from a research writing course I taught last spring, and it is not a sample of any kind of e-portfolio I'm expecting from you, except there are elements of it that are great. There are elements of it that could be different. It's not meant to be like, this is what your e-portfolio has to look like. It's just giving you some ideas and giving you some things to talk about in your forum post this week. But she did do a solid e-portfolio. Some of the things that she included are I'm not going to expect of you, and some of the things that she did not include I am going to expect of you. So we'll talk about those expectations on class next Tuesday, so be sure to come. But basically for your forum post this week, you're going to look at one sample e-portfolio. And if you remember back in February, actually on February 17th, I handed out to you guys a packet. It was a pink packet, and it was called What We Value in Multimodal Composition. And I told you it was part of my research that I'm working on. And it looked like this, but it was pink, and it had 7 different elements upon which I will be sort of judging and looking at your e-portfolio or evaluating your e-portfolio. The first one, it was 8 pages long. There were 8 pages in the packet. It was pink, like I said. The second page was where the categories of evaluation started. The first category was thoughtful modal selection, how you choose the modes that you decide to finally use in your e-portfolio. Number 2 was ease of navigation, so how easy it is to navigate through your portfolio and your multimodal components. 3 is ethical citation, so how well you cite all of your modes and everything that you use in your e-portfolio. Number 4 was modal connections, so how well the modes that you use connect to other modes. Like if you are writing about your grandfather and you have a picture of your mother, that doesn't make sense. But if you have a picture of your grandfather, that makes sense. That's a good modal connection. It's a little more complex than that, but the 5th evaluation criteria was audience awareness. How aware of your audience are you when you're choosing the modes? If, for example, you use the mode of video and or Winnie, the mailman. Hello. Good. How are you? Oh, you have to push it from the top. Thank you. All right, take care.
How's everything?
Everything's great. Yeah, he's awesome. He's sleeping now, so it's good. Yeah.
Gives you a little free time.
Yeah, I know, exactly. You too. So, anyway, sorry. That was our mailman. He always gives my dog a bone and says hello. So, the audience awareness is another one. So, if you like I said, if you design something as a blog, but you know that your audience doesn't read blogs, that's not a good choice. But if you know your audience will be interested in a video and you create a video, or they'll be interested in reading something online in alphabetic text, then you've done well in considering your audience. 6 was arrangement, so how well you hierarchize, how well you use headings, how well you arrange all of your components on your e-portfolio. And the last one was articulation, so how well you reflect on all of this and how well you write a reflection letter. So take a look at that packet again, and you're going to use those criteria to evaluate Rachel's ePortfolio. You're going to look at her introduction. You're going to look at her reflection pieces. You're going to look at the final products that she puts in there, the final projects. You're going to look at the evidence of her process that she included, so her artifacts that she used to show her writing process, and then any extras she has. And, think about what you might do that Rachel did and what you could add that Rachel didn't do. And that's what you're going to be thinking about for your forum. So your job in your forum post is to evaluate Rachel's ePortfolio based on 3 out of the 7 criteria on this handout. And then your responses to your peers due Sunday night is going to be, you're going to ask them to, you're going to either argue with them or agree with them or extend upon something they said, and even talk about another criteria from that list. So make sure you've looked over that handout. It's also available under Sakai Resources Readings, and I think it's going to be attached to the forum post, so you'll have it there. Okay, and for our final class next week, make sure you bring your laptops, because we'll be talking about your ePortfolios, so it makes sense to have some electronic access to it maybe in front of you. I'm not sure exactly how we'll use those laptops yet, but you can bring them. We'll be doing class evaluation, so I will have those idea surveys to pass out. I might also have a little survey just for my own research for you. And also I will announce the winners of the Pachakacha competition and give out the prize. And we will talk about your final ePortfolios, and I will be clear with you about what to include in that reflection letter that's basically talking about the progress you've made in the course and how you tried to or showed progress in 3 of the 9 writing outcomes that are on that reading assignment for the week. There's, I think I showed it to you in class, but those are the outcomes we expect our Writing 100 students to reach, or at least improve in, at least some of them. So think about which 3 you want to highlight or showcase as, outcomes that you think you grew in this semester. And you want to have looked at at least some of the comments, perhaps all of the comments that I have made on your projects, because those are the, you're going to probably start seeing some patterns in things that you often do well and things that you often don't do well on, and that you're looking to improve on by the end of the course. So those patterns will help you write your reflection. Like if you notice that, across the board you don't offer good support, across the board you're having trouble integrating sources, across the board you're learning that revision is much different than editing. So those might be some outcomes that you might consider focusing on for your final reflection letter. So make sure you've got the homework done for next week, and bring to class your laptop and be ready to participate in a class activity to get you going on that final ePortfolio that's due in about 2.5 weeks. Is that everything? Yeah, that's everything. Okay, so enjoy the beautiful day, and don't forget your forum posts. The first one is due Friday in a couple nights on by 11 p.m. and by Sunday your responses are due to 2 of your group members. And remember, if you miss those, you're considered absent. So do them. It's not a homework assignment; it's an actual class, because we only meet once, but we're supposed to have 3 hours of class, 3 units of class each week. So that's what the forum posts are meant to do. They're meant to be the other half of the 3 hours. Okay, and es todo. Adios.